Today I'm turning this huge Norn Emissary kit into the biggest, most epic conversion I've ever attempted. As soon as this model came out, I knew I needed it. And now that it's mid-November, there is no better time to convert this newest test subject. So let's jump right into it. I'm gonna need a lot of bits for this kit bash, and big ones at that. So my first stop is over at Vault Games to pillage their bits box. I found these guns which could make for big pipes or pistons. I'm thinking they can make good mechanical replacements for the big organic pipes already on the Norn Emissary. Since I'm not a filthy freeloader, I made some of my own sacrifices to the bits box. Honestly, just looking around at all these bits is giving me so many ideas. Having this communal shared bits box is a great resource for any kit bashing project, so definitely check out Vault Games in Brisbane if you can. And if you're an epic Australian like me, make sure to get your hobby goods from vaultgames.com.au/Pega. Alright, now that I've accumulated some suitable bits and gathered some inspiration, here's the idea. If you saw my last video, you'd know that I'm working on a Tyranid army, but a little different from your usual flesh nibblers. A stronger, hungrier, mechanical Tyranid army. Initially, I was using the Cravers from Endless Space 2 as reference and tried to almost directly copy their design. But this time, I'm in the dark. There are no Cravers for me to reference that look similar to this Norn Emissary, but I still want to do my best to match their Craver aesthetic. Since I do actually want to make 2,000 points and play this army on the tabletop eventually, I want this Norn Emissary to look recognizable on the battlefield. I'm going to keep some of the key elements of the original sculpt, or try to make a mechanical version as close to the original as I can. Then over the rest of the model, I can cover it in all sorts of mechanical bits and cables in a similar style to the Cravers. Now, I've never kit bashed something quite this big or complex before, and I really don't want to mess up this $120 kit, so the stakes are pretty high. This video is already expensive enough, so maybe consider becoming a member? It's literally all thanks to you guys' donations here and on Twitch that I was even able to afford this kit in the first place. Without you guys, this video would not exist. So thank you for letting me make this abomination. Alright, shill time is over. Initially, I thought the Necrons would have all the best mechanical bits to work with, but last time I actually found the Tau bits were the best suited. I have plenty of spare Tau shoulder pads and armor bits that are easy to remove any iconography from. This ghost kill head immediately jumped out to me. While not quite as cool as the Emissary's giant brain head, it's about the same size as the other version, the Assimilator's head. The other big recognizable feature of this model is the giant pipes on the back. The bits from Vault Games as well as some of my own could make good mechanical replacements, but we'll get to that later. First, I'm starting on the legs and working from the ground up. These should be the easiest part to convert and can help me decide the direction for the rest of the model. The Cravers have these triple jointed, half flesh, half mechanical legs that I love. Ideally, I would love to chop off the bottom half of the leg and make a completely mechanical replacement like last time. Unfortunately, I don't really have any thick enough bits to make that, but I have an idea. It already has this tube bit that looks almost mechanical on its own. So with a lot of shaving and green stuff, I cut off the unnecessary chitin to make a giant smooth leg, which we can make look biomechanical with more cables later. While messing around with some other bits as well, I stumbled across this Tau gun, which just this little end bit looks like a pretty cool engine motor looking thing. Surely more engines makes it go faster. This was a hard cut to make going through all that plastic on the knee. But my little Tamiya clippers never let me down. These dumb flesh-brained bugs thought that for some reason hooves were cooler than claws, which is obviously false. So I'm going to improve that. I don't want to remove the entire hoof and risk the model not standing up well, so instead I'm just going to smooth them down and turn them into more of a foot with a mechanical claw added on the end, obviously adding some little techie bits here and there. And then we just need to finish the top half of the leg. First I removed the remaining chitin and spikes off those thick thighs, maybe being a little too aggressive with the clippers, but it's nothing a little green stuff can't fix. I knew I wanted to add some of these Tau shoulder pads as a replacement mechanical chitin. It took a while to find a placement that I was happy with, but I eventually put it on the knee, which isn't exactly like the original, but I think it looks cool anyway. After a bit of fiddling around making sure the green stuff was nice and smooth, the first leg was finished. Then the next step was simple. I could just copy the same process on the other leg. With the legs done, I could then turn my attention to the top half of the model. This was the part I was most nervous about, since it's obviously the half that everyone will see the most. While I have some ideas in mind, I still don't know what it's really going to look like when it's finished. So I started by just assembling the kit as it is, and we can work from there. I started by covering up all the big brainy bits and chopping off all the organic spires. I looked through my bits box here and there for inspiration, looking for big bits I could stick on this back piece. This missile pod looks awesome, but the original model doesn't really have any ranged weapons for it to represent, unfortunately. Ah, fuck it. Rule of cool. Now comes time for the part I was thinking about from the beginning, the huge pillars on the back. As I showed you before, I had a lot of ideas for what I could use to replace these pillars. These long guns, Tau jetpack pieces, maybe a combination of both, but nothing really stuck with me. And more importantly, I don't have enough of the same bits to make something without it looking like a mess of random junk just sticking out of its back. I considered actually trying to 3D model and print something, but personally at this point it feels a little bit like cheating, so I went with the coward's route. I left it as it is. Hey, don't click out of the video yet. We've still got plenty of other cool things to do, but at the end of the day I remembered that this is a biomechanical monster, so I can still paint it up as flesh hiding in between all of the mechanical parts. The last parts to convert are the arms and the head. I went with the claws for the Norn Assimilator and trimmed out any obviously buggy bits so I could paint them to be big metal claws instead. With a bit of green stuff, I added some fleshy strands to blend it in, like the metal talons have been inserted into its flesh arms. As for the head, I forgot to record it, so you're just gonna have to visualize it, use your imagination. Putting green stuff around the neck, sticking the head on, making some major impulse decisions, which I guess you'll just have to wait to see. I did make sure to record this funny little tail bit though, which makes him look suspiciously like a Raichu now. Anyway, with that out of the way, we're finally on the last stretch! This is the part where we really bring together the biomechanical look, covering it with cables. Last time I got away with just using cable bits from various Necron guns, but this time we'll certainly need something longer. I thought using real cables would be a big brain move, but they were actually weirdly thin and floppy. Instead, I used this nice thick wire which I could bend into shape. I wasn't exactly sure what glue to use at first, but I found that super glue actually made a super strong bond. So all I have to do is stick them all over the miniature. And finally, it's time to put all that hard work together. 3 days of kit bashing. One giant mechanical bug.
Consume or be consumed. Why fight your inevitable doom? The Hive. Join us in endless war.
Check out my other Mechanical Tyranid video and join the Discord if you want to share your own hobby projects.